Self-defense is defined as a use of force to protect oneself from the attempted injury by another. If justified, self-defense is a defense to a number of crimes and torts involving force, including murder. But stabbing a person 193 times, is that grounds for self defense? Susan Wright thought so. Welcome back to Murder, Mystery, Mayhem, and Myth, Belief. I don't know what I've called it anymore. I'm your host, Sean. How are you doing? Subscribe. It's been a week or so since I got something posted. I've got a whole bunch of things cooking and holiday season and everything. I'm a little slow. I do apologize for that. But today's story is a quick one and a weird one. I don't know how I really feel about it because too much stuff is still left out in the open on whether the murdered person is actually a bad person or not. So we'll see. So we get to watch Cat Bath Time. You get entertained in both ways. One from me and two from Hazel Grace's Bath Time. Enjoy. Susan Wright was born on April 24th, 1976, and was from Houston, Texas. In 1997, she met her future husband, Jeff Wright, while she was working as a waitress. They got married a year later, and when she was 8.5 months pregnant. So, shotgun wedding, can we say? They had their first son. Then a daughter was born again in 2002. She claims that Jeff started to abuse her in the first years of her marriage. On Monday, January 13th, 2003, Susan tied her husband up to the bed for a little hanky-panky. After restraining him, she proceeded to stab him 193 times using 2 different knives. When she was done with her fun, she dragged his body out to the backyard and buried him. Then she proceeded to paint the bedroom and tear up the carpets. The following day, she went to the police station and filed an incident report claiming domestic violence. She also obtained a restraining order and said that her husband left the night before after he was done beating her and all that. And she didn't know where he was. 5 days later, on January 18th, she contacted her attorney, Neil Davis. He came to the home, and that's where she admitted to stabbing Jeff. He contacted the district attorney's office and advised them of the situation. And on January 24th, so another 6 days later, Susan turned herself into authorities. It took 13 months after that arraignment for her trial to begin. She pled not guilty by reason of self-defense. The trial began February 24th of 2004. Assistant District Attorney Katie Segler, I think it's Segler, described Susan as a scheming wife who wanted to collect her husband's $200,000 life insurance policy. She brought up the fact that Susan was a former stripper and that she had seduced Jeff to tie him up to the bed so she could freely stab him. Segler went as far to actually bring in the actual bed to court and reenact the stabbing. I mean, she seriously actually got somebody to lay down on the bed, and she straddled him and reenacted the stabbing. That's crazy. The defense, of course, had a completely different story, stating that Susan was a battered woman and was fighting for her life and the lives of her children. They said that Jeff came home and got loaded on some cocaine, which there was cocaine in the toxicology report. And some of it was so recent that it still hadn't even metabolized into his system yet. And then he proceeded to beat and rape Susan. Then he went on to say that he pulled a knife on Susan and they had a scuffle. And that's when she got the knife from him and started to stab him. She went on the stand herself and through a bunch of cries, she stated that she just kept stabbing him and stabbing him and stabbing him because she was afraid that if she stopped, he'd grab the knife and attack her. Some people bought it, some people didn't. One person who didn't buy it was Dr. Dwayne Wolf, who was the senior deputy chief medical examiner. He testified in court that he stated that Jeff was restrained when the wounds were inflicted. He's saying that it was his opinion because of the pattern and distribution of the wounds. He also stated that there were no defensive wounds on his hands or arms, meaning that he was tied up, because if she's stabbing, he's going to put his hands up to block it, but there was no wounds anywhere on there. So that's why they're saying that he was tied up. Then Segler, the district attorney, asked him if Jeff had died a painful death. And Wolf explained that none of those injuries that he sustained would cause instantaneous death, and that he would have suffered through it all. And x-rays even showed that a tip of the knife, or one of the knives, was broken and lodged in the top of Jeff's skull. A video was shown in court of their 4-year-old child. He stated that he had no recollection of his father ever hitting his mother. They kept asking the child questions, and he was coloring and everything with the crayons. And eventually he said that his father did punch him in the cheek one time, and he didn't know why. He said he didn't do anything, so why his dad punched him in the cheek? But this is also the account of a 4-year-old. The jury deliberated only for 5.5 hours, which seems like a short amount of time for a murder trial. I mean, for the Amanda Heard trial, they deliberated for days. And that wasn't murder. They came back with a conviction of murder. Susan showed little to no remorse or reaction to the verdict. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and it was actually upheld in a 2005 appeal. Now, in 2008, a new appeal was made, and this time a new witness approached or came to court. Misty McMichael, she was an ex-fiancée of Jeff's. And she told the court the story of how she endured 4 years of abuse and violence at the hands of Jeff. In 2009, the Texas Court of Appeals granted her a new sentencing. They stated that the counsel rendered that her previous counsel from the original trial rendered an ineffective assistance during the punishment phase of the trial in 2004. They also stated that the theory that Jeff was tied to the bed was not supported by the medical examiner, which completely confuses me because Dr. Dwayne Wolf was the medical examiner and he testified that he was tied up and explained, you know how I explained that a little bit ago, tied up, no defense wounds. So that kind of confuses me, but that's what they said. So they did lessen her sentence. So they took it from 25 years down to 20 years, shaved 5 years off of it, which made her eligible for parole February 28th of 2014. But it was denied. She was also denied in 2017. But, lo and behold, July 2nd of 2020, one of the worst years in the history of man, she was approved and released December 30th of 2020. So like I said, it was going to be a quick one. Domestic violence is not a good thing. And I'm still not sure that there was domestic violence. I'm not doubting that there wasn't because of the second lady's testimony. And I mean, I understand the cycle of violence. There is a cycle of violence that makes it hard for people in a situation like that to get away. And it's sad. There's so many resources out there. If you're somebody that's stuck in a domestic violence situation, there are so many resources out there that you can get. Unfortunately, there's a lot of movies out there that show when the women run away that the guy still finds them and hunts them down and everything, and that's Hollywood's problem. And it does still happen. It really does still happen. There was a girl years ago that I kind of dated in high school, and I just found out recently that she was killed by her husband in a domestic violent situation, which is very sad. She was a real sweet girl. And I've known a lot of other women in domestic violence situations. I've known some guys. My first wife was very mentally and psychologically abusive toward everyone around her. So, I mean, it's one of those things that it is hard. And I understand firsthand how hard it is at times. Because, I mean, she threatened me that if I ever left her, she's the woman, she'll get the kids, blah, blah, blah. And she'd look me in the face and say, I'd have no problem killing the kids so you'll never have your son. What? You're crazy, lady. So I luckily got him, and we're a better place now. So I understand how people can get into them and sometimes can't get out, but there's resources out there. Look for them. Confide in a friend. Don't let it get this far that you have to stab somebody 193 times. A friend of mine, she did a documentary on women who are in this same situation that go to prison. And she interviewed some of these women that had to end up going to prison to protect themselves. It happens. So you don't want to be stuck in a prison and then go to another prison. So, and Susan, if you watch this, I hope that everything's good with you now. And I really hope that, that you really felt like that was your only way out. So, other than that, that's all for today. Please subscribe, share this, comment, like it. Thumbs up helps because YouTube looks at that. And in comments, if there's something you want me to do, please feel free to say it because I'll try to get it done. I have decided that I'm going to reveal what, if I ever get 1,000 followers, what I'm going to do. I'm going to live stream from the Axe Murder House at Villisca, Iowa. I know other people have done it, but I haven't done it. So that's why it's special. So the Axe Murder House. And that's a freaky place. So be good to each other. And hopefully I'll get another one before Christmas. Otherwise, happy holidays. Peace.